Welcome to FSMP New Pilot Orientation number 3. I am Blurxyzer. My user cosign is Blur on the FSMP community. When you come in the FSMP sections and you don't know who to talk to first, don't know what to say, and when to say it on the radio, this is the perfect orientation for you. I'll go over some radio communication basics when flying in the sections, the controller hierarchy, and discuss the radio etiquettes. I'll be using the real-world dialogue from San Francisco International Airport recorded on liveatc.net as example.
Strike 658, go to the San Jose Airport via the gap for departure. Radar vectors to Woodside, direct. Maintain 5,000, expect 5,000 as your final. Squawk 4536.
Clearance delivery is the first stop for the pilot, and the pilot will need to read the instruction back to the controller to make sure the pilot have gotten it correctly.
Strike 658, your readback is correct. We'll put your request on with ground control.
Now pilot will switch to ground controller to request taxi instruction to the active runway.
United 378, Lima, ready to taxi.
United 378, Lima, runway 10 right, taxi via Kiswa Alpha, Bravo 1, Zulu, and Sierra 2 to runway 10 right.
10 right, Alpha, Bravo 1, Zulu, Sierra 2, United 378, Lima.
Assign taxi to runway 10 right. Let's talk about the clearance, which is usually the tough one if you never heard one before. I strongly suggest that you have a pen and paper handy when you are ready to receive the clearance from the controller. The good news is that there is a general IFR clearance instruction format. Clear to your destination airport, fly a certain heading after departing runway, initial cruising altitude, your filing altitude, departing frequency, and a squawk code. Earlier, the pilot had filed a Gap 4 departure. This is a standard instrument departure, or show for SID, is published by the FAA. In this particular SID, a pilot will be guided by the departure controller to fly to Woodside VOR to exit out of San Francisco airspace. Okay, this is where I need to hold short of runway, and I'll be switching over to tower to request for takeoff clearance. You may ask, how do I know where to turn and which way is Alpha, Bravo 1, Zulu, and Sierra 1 to where I'm holding short of runway 10 right without asking ground for progressive taxiing? I will discuss where you can get those chart and airport diagram information in the next orientation.
United 893, heavy runway 28 right, line up and late traffic will depart runway 1.
Line up and wait, 28 right, United 893.
Now we're at runway 28 right. Line up and wait is another instruction tower will give you if the airplane in front of you just departed the runway. Or for this particular instance, there is another airplane actually departing from the crossing runway. You can now enter and get your airplane line up the runway center line and wait for the tower to give you the clearance for takeoff. Once the tower tells you that you are clear for takeoff runway 28 right, then you can go ahead and throttle up and get on your way. Now we are at runway 1 right. We have waited a while holding short of runway and have gone through the checklist for takeoff.
United 389, wind 1003, runway 1 right, clear for takeoff. Clear for takeoff 1 right, United 389.
You can roll on through once your airplane is lined up the runway center line. This is especially useful skill if the tower is giving you the clearance for immediate takeoff, so you don't have to wait for another traffic in front of you. This is great. Now we're flying. When your airplane is airborne, about 1 mile from the end of the runway, Tower will eventually handing you off to departure controller.
628, contact departure.
Have a good day, 9628.
Flight 1117, contact departure.
Flight 1117, go to departure, good day.
Now switch the radio frequency and check in with the departure controller.
Redwood 950, 2000, checking in. Redwood 950, NorCal departure, radar contact, turn left being at 280, left service. Heading 280, Redwood 950.
When you check in with the departure, make sure you tell the departure controller your current altitude and what altitude you are climbing to. Then the controller will say, "Hey, I got you on my radar." Then you'll be given a radar vector to be on your way out of San Francisco airspace. Make sure you catch all the instruction, the flying headings, clear altitude, and sometimes speed if you're going too fast or too slow. Here is the flight simulator flight planner. The light blue ring indicates the San Francisco airspace. When your airplane is heading out of the outer ring, the departure will hand you off to the center controller.
United 1757 Heavy, contact Oakland Center 134.15. Very 415, United 1757 Heavy, okay.
The center controller covers a much larger airspace. I'm directing you to one of the FSMP website page to show you the area division of different control centers across this country. San Francisco is under the Oakland Center with the ID code Zulu Oscar Alpha. At this point, we have pretty much completed the outbound from San Francisco International Airport. When you are flying inbound from outside the Oakland Center airspace, you will have to rely on the chart to figure out when and where you will need to contact center before you enter their airspace. The center will give you the initial contact information for the airport you are arriving, radar vector you to avoid traffic, and then hand you off to San Francisco arrival controller.
24 is 32, United 355.
In FSMP sections, people come in and leave at different times. Most often there is one or two controller at the hosting airport. Sometimes there isn't any controller at all. Then who do I contact, you ask? When you come in the section and type /C only to find out that there isn't any controller at all, this means that you are in an uncontrolled airspace, and you would tune your radio to Unicom 122.905 and announce your traffic movement. The format starts with the particular airport traffic you are calling for, who you are, where you're at, where you're going, and end with the airport traffic call. Right now I'm inbound from Los Angeles. I would say San Francisco traffic, United 470, 43 nautical miles southeast of the field, 5,000, inbound for visual 28 right, San Francisco traffic. That complete your traffic call. Here is the second scenario. When you're starting from the gate or parking in San Francisco airport, you type /C to find out there is one controller named Stu signed in as NorCal Approach. Stu will be taking on the responsibility of all the position below him. This means that you will need to contact NorCal Approach to pick up your flight plan clearance, taxi instructions, takeoff clearance, and Stu will vector your way out of San Francisco Class Bravo airspace, and you'll be on your way to your destinations. Here is another scenario. Stu is still signing on as NorCal Approach. Now Will came in and signed in as San Francisco Ground Controller. Now there are two controllers in San Francisco airspace. In order for you to pick up your flight plan clearance, you will need to contact Will, since he will be taking on the clearance delivery responsibilities. After you pick up the clearance from Will, you taxi to the active runway per Will's instructions and hold short of the runway. You will go to Stu to request clearance for takeoff, since Stu is the NorCal Approach also acting as tower control. Don't be rude. Here are the radio etiquettes. Listen and wait. When a controller provides an instruction, the pilot will need to read back. Or when a pilot is requesting something with the controller will provide a response. You just need to make sure that other people's conversation is completed before you jump on the active frequency. Think what you're going to say before you say it, so you don't pause and trying to search for your train of thought on the active frequency. Say it in one breath. By doing so, you will keep your conversation brief. It is crucial when the traffic is busy. Keep the chit-chat off the active controller frequency. This including asking aircraft handling help. This is the reason why this section is asking the pilot to be familiar with the cockpit basic equipment. Pilot are welcome to use 136.907 to chit-chat or having a casual conversation while monitoring the active controller frequency at the same time. This way you can fly with your buddy and still following the controller's instructions.
10-5 for 10,000 with Foxtrot.
United 892 Heavy Nortel approach, depart Woodside DOR heading 050, vectors visual approach runway 28 left.
Okay, depart Woodside 050 for 28 left, United 892 Heavy.
Sky was 5640, turn left heading 290, follow the Embraer, clear visual approach runway 28 left.
290 on the heading and clear visual approach 28 left, follow the Air Canada for Sky was 5640.
Air Canada 560, tower 120.5.
120.5, Air Canada 560.
Tower Sky was 5543, visual 28 left.
5543, San Francisco Tower, runway 28 left, clear to land, wind 0903.
Clear to land 28 left, Sky was 5543.
Again, 1867, contact around point 8. Good day.
Good day, sir. Good evening, Ground American 1593, we're going to 56 Bravo.
American 1693, San Francisco ground to the Alpha Lorraine.
Use Alpha, okay.
Hopefully by now you have a pretty good idea who to talk to, what to say, and when to say it when you come in the sections. Please feel free to get on liveatc.net to get used to the phraseology. Special thanks to liveatc.net for letting me use the sound recording for educational purpose. For the next orientation video, I'll be going over the pilot resources so you can plan your flight like the real-world pilot would do. Thank you for viewing. Please be sure to check out the first two videos of this series if you haven't done so.